Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at a review of a Eurogame from Essen. I know I'm way behind schedule, but unfortunately work got the better of me. We're going to take a look at ZhanGuo from What's Your Game. Now this is a publisher that does a lot of games that I like. We'll be taking a look sometime down the road at Asgard. They also do Madeira and several other great games. And this one is really no different, so spoiler, I like the game. But you're going to be using cards in order to take actions out on a board, but really the cards you're using aren't specifically for a particular action. They're in order to get bonuses for actions, or you can place them to your own tableau in order to kind of spur those bonuses or allow those bonuses. So real quick, we're going to take a look at what you get inside of this box. We're going to see how the game plays, and then we'll come back here at the end and we'll get my opinions that I've already given you on ZhanGuo. So here you can see the components for ZhanGuo all set up for a 3-player game. Now the idea of this game is that you're going to be trying to play cards in order to place pieces out on this board in order to score points. And those cards will either be played into your player area or out to the board to take a specific action. You're going to be trying to place palaces into the different regions of the board in order to try and have, well, they're important for scoring endgame points. You're going to try and place your governors out onto the board to have area majorities, and you're going to try and place walls out onto the board in order to place into these wall areas, which will give you bonus scoring characteristics for your tableau at the end of the game. Each player has their own board out here with 5 different areas representing each of the 5 provinces you can see on the board. And they border appropriately. So 1 is next to 2 on the board and also on your player board, 2 being next to 3 and 1, and so forth and so on. You'll also see we have these little cubes right here. These cubes are called officials. You're going to be using these officials to do various things throughout the game, such as place your governors or get workers to help you build things out on the board. Now the way you're going to drive all of this is you're going to be playing cards that you'll get each round. And if we look at the cards, we'll see that on these 3 different decks of cards there are numbers. For example, 1 to 40 on the lowest deck, and going up to 81 to 120 on the highest deck. Now each of the players will get 2 cards from each of these decks during each of the 5 rounds in the game. And they're going to be playing these cards in order to take various actions or in order to build up their own tableau. When we look at a card, we'll see that it has 2 different areas. The top area is going to be a bonus area. If you play the card to your tableau, you would play it into one of these regions, and anytime you took an action, you would get the bonus in this area if you were to take the action appropriately. More on that in a little bit. The bottom of each card will have a number and a picture. The picture is pretty much irrelevant, but the number is very important because playing the right value or right range of value number will be important for whether or not you get these bonus actions in your area when you take an action out on the board. So you'll be playing them out here for the top section or onto the game board for the bottom portion, the number. Different cards have different numbers. So you saw the low cards have low numbers, the medium cards will have higher numbers, and the high cards will of course have the highest numbers. And each of these cards has different bonuses you can see at the top. Now on a player's turn, they are going to play a card. Every time it comes around to them, they must play 1 card. And they have 2 choices of how to play them. They may either play them by tucking them underneath their player board into a specific region, and they can choose any region they want to play it into. And this will give them the potential to earn a bonus in that region when an action is taken in a particular way out on the board. So for example, I could tuck this tan card under region 1. When I do this, I get something for that. 1, I get to take an appropriate marker from that color of card. So these are kind of like influence markers, or whatever you want to call them, prestige markers. They're not victory points, but they can potentially earn you some bonuses throughout the game. Since I tucked a tan card, and it's my first card in that row, I get to take 1 tan marker. If later I were to tuck a second tan card, I would take 2 tan markers. And for tucking the second card, I would have to take an unrest in this region. Unrest is bad. As you accumulate more unrest, you are unable to take specific actions, such as building palaces or using the bonuses of cards when this gets really high. So you don't want that to happen. You want to try and control your unrest. Alternatively, if I were to tuck an orange card as my second card, instead of taking 2 more tan, I would take 2 orange and add those to my supply. And you'll see that I'm building up the number of different bonus actions I could potentially take, as well as building up unrest as we go along. So the second one is worth 1 unrest, but the third one you place would be worth 2 more unrest, totaling 3. And there are other ways to get unrest as you go. But note, you'll be playing these cards out in order to try and build up bonuses, which you will get when you take actions out on the board. The other way to play a card is to take an action out on this board by playing it to this space right here. As you play cards out here, they will accumulate. So players will take turns each playing a card, either to their tableau or out to the board. And when the first card gets played out to the board, it can be either higher or lower than the current number. So right now we see the number is X. The first person to choose a card to play will get to choose what this number is. So let's say, for example, that our player played card number 16. And let's say they want to take one of these 6 actions you can see here. All 6 of the actions are printed on the board. Now, for example, if they wanted to take the building walls action, which they can't currently do, but if they wanted to, they would want this card that they played to be higher than the previously played card. That would allow them to take the bonus actions that show walls in their area over here, in their provinces that they've played out. So you'll see that this one says if you take a wall action and you played a card that is higher, allowing you to get the bonus, you get to get rid of all of your unrest in this area. So that would kill out their unrest if they were able to do this. Alternatively, if they wanted to take the action of playing one of their governors, they would want to play a card that's lower. So right now they could say X is 20 and that they play 16, and now they can play their ambassador. You'll see out here we have a bonus card that uses ambassadors, and that says that we can place a white cube in this region if we play the appropriate value of card, in this case, lower. So that's how the bonuses are going to work for cards that you've played to your tableau. Now, the actions you can take, irrespective of what you're using for the numbers, are printed right here on the board. And we're actually going to talk about these kind of central 3 first. So anytime you play a card, you may choose any of these actions. It has nothing to do with what's printed on the card, it has nothing to do with the value of the card, and it has nothing to do with the cards in your tableau. All it means is you're playing a card to choose an action, and the number will dictate whether or not you get bonuses that are listed out here. So these 3 actions are builders, get builders, move cubes, which are going to be your officials, and get new officials. You'll see that you have some on your board to start, 2 red and a gray, but that you have a supply that are over here to the side. So let's go ahead and talk about getting new officials first. If you were to play a card out and choose this action, you may take any one of your officials that you like and place it anywhere on your tableau. These officials are going to be important for, 1, getting workers, which we'll talk about momentarily, but also for going ahead and being able to place out your governors onto the board at a later point. So you'll want to have these in particular sections in order to do specific things. So if you take that action, you get to go ahead and place one of these cubes, anyone you want, anywhere out onto your board in the top region sections. Note that these sections, again, correspond to the regions that are on the board. The next type of action you can take is related to placing cubes, and that is moving cubes. Now, moving cubes can possibly be free and done at any time. You are always allowed to move cubes from the top area of a section here, which is basically related to this province on top, to the bottom area, and place them into these 2 little cube areas. Placing those cubes down there will allow you to get workers later, so that type of movement is free from top to bottom. However, moving them left to right or from bottom to top costs movement points, which you can generate here, or some of the bonus cards that we talked about will give you movement points throughout the game. So this gives you 3 points of movement. That can be from right to left or left to right, so moving them like this, or from the bottom to the top, or from the bottom to the one of these over here. So you'll see there's little arrows giving you indicators, and there's little check marks showing that you can go from the top to the bottom for free. So you would get 3 points of movement, which could be 1 cube 3 times, or could be 3 cubes 1 time, or any combination of those things. Getting builders is using these cubes. So these officials can be moved to the bottom here, any combination you want. Of course, remembering that the black are not officials, they are unrest. But you can move them to the bottom and take this action in order to get builders in an area for as many cubes as you have in the bottom, up to 2. When you get these builders, you're going to take these little builder tokens and put them in the bottom here, and these builder tokens will be used to build things later on, of course, as the name suggests. So that's what these 3 actions do. Now, in order to take the other actions, you're going to need to have these various things placed in particular areas. So let's go ahead and start with walls. Building a wall will require you to remove 1, 2, or 3 builders from 1, 2, or 3 different regions. That's regions here. So you'll note there's 5, you need to remove them from 1, 2, or 3 different regions in order to build a wall. Building these walls will allow you to place a wall out here onto one of these different segments. So you'll see each of these different bonus tiles has 3 associated walls with 1, 2, or 3 marks. So if you remove 3 builders or 3 builders from 3 different areas, you can place it on the 3 area, 2 on the 2 area, and 1 on the 1 area. Doing so will give you a way to score bonus points at the end of the game. So you'll see this tile here has a 1, 2, or 3 multiplier, and that's for every region in which you have placed an orange card. So if you've placed an orange card in all 5 of your regions, you would be able to get 15 points. If you had instead removed only 2 workers, you would place it on the 2 spot, and you'd get a 2 times multiplier. So a card in all 5 regions would be worth 10, and on the 1 times multiplier, 5. The other ones you can see out here are for having no unrest in each of your regions. And something I forgot to mention earlier is when you take a building action, you actually go up in unrest. So placing these builders gives you unrest that you get as you go along. For removing all of this at the end of the game, if you had this on the 3 spot, you'd get 15 points for having no unrest in all of your region, and the scoring goes on. This one is for having gray cubes in different regions. This one is for having sets of 3 different color cards. This one is for placing tan cards, and this one is for placing white cubes. So you can build walls out to get multipliers in all of these various areas. Building the palaces requires that you use builders as well. You have to remove 2 builders from the region you want to build in, and 1 builder from any other region. That will allow you to build a palace out into the region you wanted to build into. So for example, let's say I had 2 builders here, and 1 in 4. I could remove all 3 of them in order to build a palace in region 1, and that would allow me to place this out here. Now the reason that you're building these palaces is to finish these endgame objectives over here. You'll see that there's an objective to build a palace in areas 1, 2, and 5. And there's also an objective to build them in 3, 4, and 5. If you're the first player to complete this, you're going to move your marker onto the first spot there, and you would of course get points at the end of the game for that. More on that in a little bit. The same types of objectives qualify for building walls, so in the blue and yellow areas, or in the purple and blue areas. If you're the first person to do that, you would go ahead and get to move your marker on there, and for placing the governors in different areas. Placing a governor requires that you have all 3 different type of officials in the same area. So you would need to have a white, a gray, and a red all in the same region area. Remove all 3 of them, and that would allow you to place a governor in that region. When you place a governor in a region, you'll see that there are 3 spots available for them, and placing on them will give you a bonus, either 4 points, a free new official in an area, or 4 movement points for officials so that you may move them around your regions. If all of these areas are full, you can place them outside, but you'll get no bonus. At the end of the game, having the majority of these guys in these areas will be worth points. It's going to be worth points, 9 for example, plus 3 for each guy that you have in that area. So it's quite a bit of points for placing out these ambassadors. In addition, when you place out an ambassador, it clears off all of your unrest from that area, but kills off all of the officials. Now you're going to go until the end of the round trying to play higher or lower cards in order to get bonuses based off of the different action icons out here for the cards that you've played in your tableau until everyone has played all 6 of their cards, of course building up this stack. When you finish doing that, everyone having taken all of their 6 actions and getting whatever bonuses they were going to get for playing them appropriately, you're going to go to the end of the round, which is based on this area over here. Now this area is called the unification area, and it's divided into 5 columns. These columns are going to be based on these little markers that you've been collecting throughout the round by playing cards into your own area, and of course collecting the markers that we talked about earlier based on how many cards are in that region and the color of the card you played. One thing I forgot to mention is that there are 3 larger markers here that count as 3 of these unification markers that you get for building a building. So if you'd taken the build building action and placed one out, you get to choose any one of the 3 that is still remaining. If there's only 1 remaining, you get that one. If there are none remaining, you get nothing. When we finish the round, we're going to start from top to bottom and take a look and see who has, for example, the most of these tan markers. That player has a choice. They can either take this bonus, which is getting 1 free official out onto their tableau in Area 1, or they can pass on it. If they pass on it, it goes to the player who has the next most, and then the next most, and if everyone passes on it, no one takes it. But if you do take it, you have to return all of your markers. So let's say that red had the most, they decided to take it, they would give up all of their markers, and they would move their marker over here. This will also dictate turn order. Now, when we go to the second one down, it's going to be whoever has the most orange markers, and you'll repeat the procedure. But they would get 2 red in Area 1. The third one would be brown, and you get 2 gray in Area 1. This now will dictate the turn order, and the turn order will be from top to bottom over here, so if nobody took anything, and then from top to bottom in these rows, and you'll reorder appropriately. Everyone either carrying on their markers or giving them up for some type of bonus. As you would imagine, the bonuses get much better and proceed to new regions as the game goes on. So you'll get different cubes, or you'll get some builders. You'll get to place a free governor, or place a free wall, or build a building, but you won't get one of these markers. So they get better and better as the game goes on. Regardless, you would then start a new round, advancing the marker one space and continuing on in the same manner, getting your 6 cards, playing them out for actions, and of course trying to build up a way to score victory points. At the end of the game, you'll of course have accrued some points, hopefully from playing ambassadors, or through card play throughout the game in your tableau, but you're also going to get points for various other things. The first thing you can get points for is majority in each of these regions. I said if you have majority, you're going to get 9 points, plus 3 points for every guy you have there. So you can score all of these. Secondarily, you're going to go through the unification marker thing, and you'll actually do this before majority, check and see if anybody gets the last rewards. They pay their stuff, but later on you'll check and see who has the most of each left, and they will score 5, 6, or 7 points for having the most markers left. So it becomes a question of, do you want to take the bonus and give up your markers, or keep your markers and potentially score points at the end of the game? You'll also get points for all of your walls. So we talked about these earlier. You would then score these looking at where you've placed your wall, what multiplier that gives you, and how many points it correlates to. And then finally, you're going to get points for these tracks over here, each of them having points that you could have scored by either finishing the goal here, well, of course, finishing the goal here, but also by being on each of the individual tracks. So if you have a marker on each one of these 3 tracks, you're actually going to multiply the points you would get times 3. If you're only on 2 of the tracks, you would multiply by 2, and if you're on 1 of the tracks, you won't multiply by anything. So, for example, being on the 3, and the 4, which would usually be worth 10 points, would be worth 30 if you were on all 3 tracks. And the same is true for the bottom. Through this, whoever has the most points will be the winner. Well, there you have it. That is ZhanGuo. And throughout, I know that I forgot several minor things that were related to details of the game. For example, when you build a palace, you actually get a point for every card already in your tableau. So that's kind of a reason to build up your tableau, not only for the bonus actions you'll get, but also for the points you get for building palaces. There's probably a few other minor things that I missed there, but I assure you I played it right. I played it many times, and the game is really very good. For several reasons, but the main one is that essentially there's really only 2 actions you can take in this game. 1, play a card to your tableau. 2, play a card to the table, either higher or lower than the previous card. From those 2 base actions of playing cards to one place or the other, there are 6 more actions you can take. Those 6 actions that are on the board, getting a new official, or building a building, or building a wall, any of those things. And so the real interaction, it's a very simple game in terms of what you can do. Play a card here, play a card here. But it stems out from there much further. There's kind of a tree of options. So it starts very simple, play a card here, play a card there. That branches out to either, where am I playing the card on my tableau? Do I want to play it into a particular region to use that bonus there? Do I want to play it as a 2nd or 3rd card to get unification markers? Or am I simply just trying to get cards to my tableau in order to earn victory points by building palaces? If you play the other side, it's which of the 6 actions do I want to take? And even further, how can I play the appropriate card from my hand, either higher or lower, to get all of the bonuses on my tableau so that I can get multiple actions essentially out of taking 1 action on the board? Combine that with the fact that you can earn points from building palaces and getting essentially all of those objectives you can complete on the right side of the board done, or from building walls and having various different factors of your tableau earn points at the end of the game, or by placing ambassadors and just getting points throughout the game and having area control. It's a little bit of a point salad, but that's really what I like. So very simple to start, but with a ton of options as to what you can do. Always makes for a great game in my opinion, and that is no exception here. So if that sounds good to you, check it out. That is ZhanGuo from What's Your Game?
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.